Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars and welcome to another tag video. Now this is a tag video that was created by Isaac over at Isaac Reviews, and it's a new channel set up by Lisa Love's son Isaac, and he's a huge fan of superheroes, and his first tag is unsurprisingly superhero related, and it is a Marvel vs DC tag video specifically. Now I was tagged by Geek Legion of Doom, however I would have done this tag anyway, Isaac. I wasn't going to miss out on your first tag video. So we have 7 questions, and actually they are some very good questions here, and actually quite hard to answer some of them. So I have been giving it a little bit of thought, and we shall get started with the first question. And the first question is, if you were a superhero, who would you be and why? Very difficult question to answer because there's so many cool superheroes out there. There really is, but the one that just kept springing to mind for me, and it's probably the most boring answer maybe, is Superman. To me, he is the most iconic superhero out there. I grew up with Superman, his movies, the Christopher Reeve movies. It's the superhero, he's my favourite superhero, and I think he's the most iconic superhero. And I just think his powers, yeah, you can describe him as overpowered if you like, but I just think he's absolutely really cool. So my answer is Superman. For that reason, I just think he's completely iconic. If you were a supervillain, who would you be and why? I actually found this even more difficult to answer, because there are so many cool supervillains out there, and because I'm a huge film fan, I base this on who I think has been the best villain in a superhero movie. And for me it's Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, the Joker. Yes, I know he's completely mad, completely bonkers, but he always looks like he's having a great time being a supervillain. So my answer for that one is the Joker. And the Arkham games, which you won't be old enough to play yet, but your mum might play them, the Batman games. Mark Hamill, who plays Luke Skywalker, voices the Joker in those games, and he is just brilliant in those games. He is such a blast when you're playing those games as well. So for me, the Joker stands out. Right, which superpower would I have and why? Again, this is probably the most obvious and boring answer, but I'm going to say flight. I mean, if you just had flight and nothing else, you wouldn't really be much of a superhero. So I'm kind of thinking of, if I can only have one power, you don't want to be super strong because you just keep breaking things, wouldn't you? I think. So I'm saying flight, and it's only because, I wouldn't have to worry about putting petrol in my car. When I go into work, walk out the front door and take off. I'll be there in a few minutes, few seconds sort of thing. So for me it's flight, it's the most practical for me. You want to go for a day trip to Blackpool or wherever, just fly off. You'll be there in 5 minutes. So that's my reasoning. Do I prefer superheroes or villains? The majority of the time it's superheroes, just because they are just cool. There are some superheroes who I think I was never really keen on when I was young. People like Captain America. I just thought they were too goody almost, and you could throw that argument at Superman, I suppose, but and supervillains always seem really cool, but at the end of the day, who'd want to be bad all the time? You wouldn't want to be bad all the time. Maybe a good anti-hero like Venom or something. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? So I'm going to have to say superheroes, I prefer. The next question, do I prefer Marvel or DC and why? This for me was the hardest question to answer. Do I prefer Marvel or DC? Honestly, I really struggle here because I don't necessarily have a preference. I'm not a Marvel guy, I'm not a DC guy, I'm a superhero or a, superhero guy. I like them both. They're both iconic in their own ways. Yes, I know Marvel is ahead in their cinematic universe. I think DC are doing okay. I think they've made some good ones. Man of Steel, Aquaman, Wonder Woman. They are starting to pick up. But people seem to forget that, DC films did exist before this so-called Marvel Cinematic Universe and DC Cinematic Universe. People are forgetting the iconic Christopher Reeve Superman films, the first two, arguably the third one, which I like. People are forgetting the Tim Burton Batman films. People are forgetting, crucially to me, the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, which in my opinion is one of the best trilogies ever made. So DC, and people are judging DC on their current films and some of the poor performances and displays of some of those films like Suicide Squad, etc. But DC have been churning out good films for a long time. So I don't really have a preference here. I do like them both. But I think if you actually lined up classic movies, I would probably put films like Superman the movie and the Dark Knight trilogy ahead of most Marvel films, because I just think they're iconic movies for a start. Right. Who is my favourite DC character and why? I've already kind of answered this. It has to be Superman. He's iconic. He's completely and utterly iconic. He has worked on screen in regards to the Christopher Reeve performances, who I think will never be surpassed as the perfect Superman. He was perfect as Superman. I think Henry Cavill is excellent as being cast as Superman, and I thought Man of Steel was brilliant, and I think they've kind of done him a disservice since then. He was too grumpy in Batman vs Superman, too depressing, and Justice League, it was a bit all over the place, although I did think they were heading in the right direction with his character in Justice League. But I do think if they can give him a Man of Steel 2 and really knock it out of the park, I think he'll be remembered as a really strong Superman, Henry Cavill. So Superman's my favourite DC character. And who is my favourite Marvel character and why? This is a little bit more difficult to answer. When I was growing up, I was probably the biggest fans of Spider-Man and Iron Man when I was growing up reading comics. Those were the comics I tended to buy the most. I loved the Secret Wars comics, and Spider-Man was just amazing, and I really liked Iron Man as well. But also I liked Hulk. There's so many Marvel characters that I really like, and since the introduction of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think they've done a good job with pretty much every character they've got hold of. Even Guardians of the Galaxy, I didn't even really know they were until the film came out, and that was brilliant. So it's more than one character I'd say for Marvel, and I would say Spider-Man and Iron Man are my two most favourites. So I think that's all the questions that I've answered now. Yeah. This tag has been left open to everybody by Isaac, so I'm going to do the same. I'm going to leave it to anybody who's watching this. If you want to do this tag, go ahead and do it, but please don't forget to let people know that it was Isaac over Isaac's Reviews that created this tag. So I hope you enjoyed this, Isaac. I hope I answered these well enough for you, and I'll see you all next time on Screen Stars.